turn on mic. Yeah, I need to get rid of Stinger for one. I used the wrong source for another. I forgot that this is in Twitch for a third thing, and that I don't need to actually like set aside a little bit of time for the ads to roll. And also, I should probably turn off auto captions because I'm pretty sure that was only meant for Twitch in the first place. Man, doing a weekly Zatsudan on completely different platforms is a bit of a pain in the butt. I should do something about that. I did say in my previous stream I was probably going to mess around with restreaming software to like get around. Now that Twitch doesn't like ban us for using it, although they are still specifying that you can only show Twitch chat and not prioritize the other chat in your interactions, which is a pain in the butt. But whatever, I don't care. Whatever works will work. If you saw an earlier stream, you didn't. That was just me kind of fucking up the settings because again, I only do the YouTube side once a month. I should really try to do more. If nothing else, I have my Taiwanese cooking book now. I should probably just find some keto-friendly recipes, mark them down, and try to do some content around that. You know, it'd be fun. But yeah, hi folks. October is over, which means that the subathon is over, which means I need to redo all of my assets so that they're no longer subathon themed. We only raised about $60 this month, but also we raised over $60 this month. Mostly thanks to Asus, who dropped a fat 50 on us. Hats off to the dude. That was extremely generous. And although we are a very small time streamer, I consider it a huge victory to be a huge participant at all to the overall goal of making kids happy, especially sick kids. Asus, hey, what's up? Nice of you to drop by. What's there to talk about this month? Right, subathon. I'm a little sad that we didn't ultimately hit the Monjon donation goal, so I think I'll do that anyhow sometime later this month. It is November, which for me would have traditionally meant doing. Let me raise my ball a little bit. Would have traditionally meant doing the National Novel Writing Month, except that no, too freaking busy. God, you have no idea how much of a stress ball that is. The National Novel Writing Month, if you're not familiar with it, is the goal of writing down $50,000 words in 1 month. $50,000 words, by the way, is not a full novel. The average novel, the average 400-page novel that you find in a bookstore, runs about approximately 100 to 150 words, right? So 50,000 words is about 50% to 33% of the full novel. However, doing that in 1 month is a pain in the butt. You're obligated to write, I believe, approximately 1,667 words a day in order to reach the goal in time on the very last day before midnight strikes. And let me tell you, I can write 1,667 words on a daily basis on a work basis because it will be covering different things and different obligations. But trying to write a whole damn novel and keep it cohesive in my head while doing so is really hard. Which is why the advice is actually not to write it out as a cohesive novel and care about quality, right? The trick to it is that it's to force you to write every single day without any compromise, without making excuses, to get in the habit of daily writing, which is what you need at the end to produce something that will later be edited down to a novel. The writing is the first part, and before you even get to the first part, first you need to have the raw words, right? And is both easy and hard. Because everything in my body screams when I write shit, or when I make an obvious typo, or when the scene, when I write out a scene and decide halfway through, this doesn't really link very well. Maybe I should rewrite this and just erase everything up to the last 3 pages. And I can't, because it's not Orihime. And overall, I have been doing this for some years now, right? Usually I would do this on a once yearly basis, just to keep myself in practice, to scrub off the rust from not writing fiction the rest of the year, and make sure that I can keep my creative energies flowing. This year I'm going to pass on that for simply the reason that I'm too busy. Work is hard. Work is really, really hard. They've already let go a couple people this year for underperformance or related issues, and I had tempted the chopping block at one point earlier this year. I don't want to do that again. You know, it's not as if the work I'm doing is particularly hard, but it does require some mental reserves, and I've already had to take a couple like week-long breaks this year just to keep myself fresh and productive, and it's just not it's not the work that I want to be doing, but it is work that gets my bills paid and funds all my other projects. So it's not as if I have much of a choice. I have to be able to keep my focus on it, and that just means no novel writing this year. But what I mean by that is that I'm not going to do the full 50,000. I'm going to instead try to do a 10,000 word novella length entry, not for NaNoWriMo, but to finally close the book on the story I've been trying to write all year as a follow-up to the previous short story I wrote and self-published on this channel, by the way, on this channel. And that'll be it's a pain. I can do it though. I know of my writing. I know the general extent of my writing abilities and where I want to be able to push it and improve it. And this is what I'm doing to like challenge myself to allow my what's the phrase I want to put out there? To give myself the space to be creative is the most important thing. Writing for clients, writing for work is a very specific form of writing. It's not the most enjoyable, even though I would like to think that when I'm allowed to, I have a nice flair for it. Although, frankly, what I'm doing is mostly just to give the basic structure to what we're publishing, and then give it off to my managers to add more of an aesthetic to it. And that's not great for my mental health because everything wants me to just show off, and I can't. Not professionally. Not yet. So it's a pain. But whatever. The main thing is just I need to find fewer excuses to not do my own creative shit. And National Novel Writing Month is always a good way to force oneself to find the time, even if that time is just like a couple like minutes in between projects, or like 1-2 paragraphs just before bed. Like, it's better to have the mental discipline to do that than to languish away dreaming about what ifs. What if I had the time? What if I just had like a weekend to myself to write what I wanted to write? What if I was struck by the a divine muse? That's not how it works. If you actually want to be a professional writer, the one thing you have to be is productive. Even if you're mostly just productive producing trash. Like, eventually you'll get to the point where you already have a whole bunch of mental shortcuts to produce like decently publishable quality work. You know how to structure things and innately, even if you haven't written it down yet. So it just kind of flows together and like slaps together like a bunch of Legos, and that's fine. It's publishable. It's not the best you've ever done, but you can get paid for it, and your editor won't be too mad. Like that, you get to a level eventually where you can do that kind of shit without having to commit too many mental resources towards it, and that's fine. That's great. But it kills the soul if you can't do anything truly creative after a while. And that's where I am right now. I need to find a way to allow myself to be creative. Other than that, let's recap this week. We did not stream this much this week because I was recovering from the double COVID flu shot at last weekend. Knocked me out for a few days, made it really difficult to put my mind together for anything more than work-related purposes. I was straining myself just to stream a couple games here and there, and ultimately didn't keep to my schedule. I thank you for your patience while I dealt with my health. But that's long over. Let me feel. Like, the flu shot was the worst of it because the point of injection was sore this entire week, but I don't feel any soreness anymore, so that's all faded finally. I did, however, get bit by a mosquito 3 or 4 times after that, because freaking mosquitoes at this time of year are just so bad. That's neither here or there though. It's mostly just me whining about the weather and the local fauna. Fucking mosquitoes. Other than that, we did, however, do the one thing I wanted to do, which was to host a VR chat horror stream. We did that with Orihime just yesterday, and the VOD of which is on my Twitch channel. It was a lot of fun. We ran into a lot of worlds that were either just kind of sort of okay. The succubus one was like, is this it? It's like an idle clicker with a very cheap reward at the end. But the other one, the one that was the fears test, I think I want to go back to that. I want to try it out myself later just to see what else they made, because it was pretty damn well done. Ori was not able to go through the whole thing, poor her. But I appreciated the overall structure of it, the tensions, and like especially the shower room where we're supposed to find the key, but I didn't realize until way late. But the shower room in particular was pretty well crafted to me, right? It was just enough light to drive up your paranoia and not enough light for you to know whether or not there's anything around the corner. So by the time you figure out how to get past the shower stalls and everything, you knew that you were hunted in the lockers in particular, but there was no way through. That was fun. The cave was okay, but the puzzle solving at the end was kind of cheesy. I think it would have been better if we were just like forced to traverse a subterranean system with something haunting us and stalking us with like audio cues to show that they were still like up in the ceilings watching us, like glimmering little beady eyes just barely visible in the dark from like cliff sides overhead, instead of like it's still just some cheap scary monster. Like aesthetics, you know, the aesthetics matter. It matters a lot. And some of these horror worlds definitely did the aesthetic side of horror a lot better than simply having cheap jump scares. Like, okay, one or two cheap jump scares to like catch you unawares. That's just a horror staple. But I want to be scared, not merely startled. And there's a big difference. There's a big difference. You know? There's absolutely a huge difference between being scared and startled. What else? Oh, today I just came back from watching Five Nights at Freddy's. It was whatever. I don't think I was too impressed by the overall script, to be quite honest. Like, it fits with the whole horror thing, right? If you really want to scare me, if you really want to increase the tension, it's about what you're hinting at, what you've alluded to, the innuendo, like the dreadful innuendo of horror, right? The things that you can just barely see and the rest of your imagination is filling out for you. That's what's truly scary to me. Like, having my own imagination run rampant, driving out the paranoia, making me think that there's something that's just watching me in the corner with an unknown but malicious agenda, is many times more scary than simply having the puppet thrown at me. I think that's where Five Nights largely fails, especially in contrast to the game. The game does have shock horror, but what a lot of the game is the implication of what's approaching you, right? The implication of their nefarious intent. And a lot of that, although there were a couple decent scares, especially when... Sorry, Clea died here. Especially for some of the victims involved. Like, obviously intends to make a coherent movie first and foremost, and make it lore accurate second. If quite frankly, I don't know FNAF lore too well in the first place. But what I do know is that they definitely focus on trying to present like a contrast between an easily understood motive and reason for the undergoings, rather than a truly scary movie. And I felt like there were a lot of wasted opportunities there because of that. Especially with interaction with his sister. Like, what the hell was that? Like, sure, there was obviously the intent to mislead and then, like, entrap them by throwing off guesses about their intents, but it just really wasn't well done. It felt. I guess there's an inherent tension. It wanted to present the innocence of the victims, of the original victims, versus the fact that they're basically spring lock animatronics trying to kill you. The tension there, however, just really wasn't well put together. I don't know. It wasn't great. I heard it described somewhere online as basically soft for preteens, and you know what? That's basically it. That is basically what it is. It was basically soft for preteens, and I was not impressed. It wasn't meant to impress me in the first place, though. I was clearly the wrong audience for it, because the kids that were there have played through the entire series. They were obviously head over heels for the cameos. Obviously, we saw Mad Pat. That was a very blatant joke. I feel like it wasn't really well stitched in, but what can you do? But I felt like I could have written a more horrifying review. And overall, like a much more tense pattern of revelation and red herrings. But it is what it is. It is what it is. FNAF Lord of Damage has never been exactly the best of the best, though. It was always meant for kids, basically. This week was the end of our participation in the Gamers Outreach. We had a really good time. We played a lot of scary games. If you want an example of a horror game where I thought the writing was really solid, it would definitely have to be well, overall the implications for Detention was pretty damn good. The overall story writing for Slay the Princess was probably the best read of the lot. Although I don't consider it a particularly scary story, it's mostly just disturbing for the implications it makes, and especially for the relationship it portrays between the protagonist and the self-named princess, right? Like, the horror of it wasn't jump scares; it was the sinking feeling that whatever is happening in the background of the story is being reflected by the murderous relationship between the two of you, right? It was that against this backdrop of the rules and the nature of the reality that you inhabit with the princess, and how it's reflected in the violence between the two of you. That was a lot of fun. I could expound heavily into the things of it. Clearly, there's a lot of Lovecraftian influence. You really cannot write a modern horror story, a modern cosmic horror story, without involving the old masters of Lovecraft, and especially August Derleth, who did a lot to expand the overall canon of the Cthulhu mythos. Actually, no. To be frank, all of Lovecraft's contemporaries are much better writers than Lovecraft himself. But you cannot dismiss the potency of the ideas he put forth that allowed for those contemporaries to latch on and produce, right? Like the craft of it, you'll definitely want to go to different horror writers, but the implications, the nature of cosmic horror and how they relate to the human experience or don't, it's definitely canonicized by Lovecraft's works. And this was definitely true for Slay the Princess, especially in the ending that we got, where we both became gods ascended past the confines of the construct and beyond all human understanding. Yeah, that's definitely all Lovecraft. Specifically, the nature of, I believe, Yog-Sothoth and Azeroth. The blind idiot god, especially, was reflected heavily in how the long quiet was described, with like the piping, like the the shrill piping of mad dancers that was supposed to keep Azeroth in a state of what's Azeroth? Az is something. Let's see. Azathoth. There we go. Right. It was an Egyptian based name because Lovecraft was a blatant racist. So he chose 84 names as a way to make his gods sound alien and unknowable. Azathoth, which would probably be renamed it dozen different ways, so while still preserving the overall name structure. It's supposed to be like the nuclear chaos, right? Not nuclear as in nuclear power, but nuclear as in the central chaos of all things, right? The basic seedbed of reality, the dreaming god, held in bay from destroying all of reality by the piping of mad dancers and performers. That's basically the Long Quiet. Forced to dream of himself as a warrior seeking a princess, or knight seeking a princess, really. By the mad piping of a construct meant to keep the end of all things at bay, which ultimately failed because Azathoth is a god far beyond the constraints of an immortal, right? And of course, Yog-Sothoth, which is the is it Yog-Sothoth or Shib-Niggurath? God, I had notes on this. I was actually sort of planning to write and voice a short video on the matter because it was a lot of fun. Okay, here we are. Yog-Sothoth is the outer god of gates, space, and time, one of the most powerful enigmatic deities of the great beyond. He's said to be a terrible, self-aware manifestation of the dimension of time, or even the dark tapestry, which has a lot of parallels with a god that's supposed to represent constant change, because time is change. If all things were stasis, there would be no time. The interplay between high-level physics and cosmic horror is always fun. I've always found it entertaining. I've read all sorts of materials on it. It's a very ripe field of science fiction to plumb, especially by those with a sufficiently twisted sense of humor, you know? There's a sort of pun play in the idea of the god of time and change also being the god of death. And on the nature of time itself, forcing change upon its adherents. Like, I would say there's a lot of inherent overlap between conceptualizing a cosmic horror, eldritch deity that is a twisted reflection of the laws of nature with referential humor, you know? I think it uses a lot of the same tool sets. Which is why Charles Stross is one of my favorite writers on the matter, because the guy is fundamentally very funny without actually trying to. They say that laughter and the screams of laughter and screams of horror come from the same base root, after all. And also shares the same like fundamental kits and inventiveness and creativity. Shares a lot of the same like fundamental tools. So yeah, that's why I like Slay the Princess so much, even though nothing of it really scared me that much, except for the nightmare. The nightmare was really well crafted to really prey upon your fears of puppets in particular, and ghosts. The Spectre was a lot more friendly than the Nightmare, although they're both technically ghosts. What else? World of Horror, of course, is just a lot of fun. It's more of a game, the most proper game of the lot that I played for especially Spectacular Saturdays than anything else, because it had the most like blatant game mechanics. You're basically juggling resources, trying not to let the Doom Tracker go too far ahead of you, try not to take too much damage to your sanity or your health, and to beat down these cosmic horrors back into the nasty little holes they came from. And succeeding! Sure, your victory might be temporary because these are gods and concepts you're fighting against, but the fundamental optimism for games like World of Horror is that human effort matters, and that you can turn the tide by being willful and determined enough and clever enough to see through their ruses and ultimately come ahead of these cultists and horrors beyond imagination and reality. That's optimistic. I'm not so convinced with real life. I kind of get a feeling that a lot of cases it's even more of a dice roll than it would be within World of Horror, which is a very much a dice-based game, dice and stats-based. Some of the things we find out we have to struggle with against out there. Our victory conditions are not under our control. Not to complain too much about it, though, because we really don't have much of a choice with these things except to struggle through, right? Just find a way to survive. Find a way to stay ahead of your obligations. Find the space in your life to do things you want to do versus things you need to do, and hopefully survive at the end of it all. I sound pessimistic, but I guess I'm really stressed and tired. It is what it is. But it's not too bad. I'm finding the groove of it, and we're near the end of the year, which generally for my industry is a slowdown on all fronts. I even have some PTO saved up for my birthday. That'll be coming up. I need to do something for that. I have phone-related no ideas whatsoever, but I'll probably ask some friends around to see if they want to do like crab game or something, right? Just something easy. Nothing that requires too much. Well, actually, now that I think about it, maybe I do want to do something after all that's a little more risk-taking. But I'm going to ask around first before solidifying anything. And we'll see what we can do. I'm not convinced I can necessarily pull it together in just 1 month's time. But if so, I do have fallback plans, you know? You know, there's always crab game, there's always Fall Guys, there's always some silly party game we can get into. If nothing else, if all else truly fails, there's always Among Us. But yeah, that's pretty much it for now. I will have my schedule up for this week, an actual legit schedule again, sometime tomorrow morning. It will, of course, be AC6 again, because we have not finished our first campaign through. I do plan to get the true ending, which requires 2 rounds of New Game Plus, but luckily it is pretty fast to finish through once you unlock all your shit, and you can just take dual blasters with your high-tech mech and take it up to Baltius and say, "Hi, bitch, look at double shotguns to the face." You know? It's always nice when you can do that. And what else? Obviously fighting games. And now that we're not doing horror games on Saturday, I'll think about it. I think I'll go back to one of the games that I've been meaning to play on stream, or it's just like a nice chill Saturday messing around with Suika or something, which I have not managed to get more than 3,000 points in yet. I've gotten Suika before. I've not gotten 3,000 points yet, because the damn game can get really frustrating. But that's all for now. Again, thank you all for following along. Thank you all for indulging me on these Zatsuds. And I will see you tomorrow with Armored Core 6. As always, my friends, eat well.